When wild fishing in summer, if the terrain meets two conditions, there will definitely be schools of big fish. Summer is the off-season for fishing, mainly because of the high temperature. When the air temperature is too high, the water temperature also becomes too high. When the water temperature exceeds the optimal feeding temperature for fish, their feeding amount will decrease, and they will have poor appetite, making it naturally difficult to catch fish. However, high water temperature also means that fish have relatively strong vitality, which conflicts with the reduced feeding amount. Therefore, when the weather conditions are suitable, fish will actually feed more frantically. The key to choosing the weather for fishing in summer is coolness. On days that can lower the water temperature and increase dissolved oxygen, fish are definitely easier to catch. In fact, the selection of fishing spots is the same. Places where the water temperature is lower and the dissolved oxygen is higher than the surrounding areas have the highest possibility of having fish schools. 1. Low water temperature. The water temperature is related to many factors, but the key is the air temperature, which is the most influential factor. In addition to air temperature, the water temperature of flowing water and still water is different, as is that of deep water and shallow water, and sunny areas and shady areas. Generally, flowing water is cooler than still water, unless the flowing water comes from a hot spring. Therefore, pay attention to a special terrain. Some water surfaces have connected culverts, which are warm in winter and cool in summer, making them suitable fishing spots in summer and winter. If there is a hot spring, it will definitely be a place where fish gather in winter. Generally, deep water is cooler than shallow water because the water temperature is inversely proportional to the water depth. The deeper the water, the lower the temperature. However, there are exceptions. When the air temperature is very low, deep water is warmer than shallow water. For example, when the water surface freezes, deep water remains unfrozen, indicating that deep water is warmer. Sunny areas are hotter, while shady positions are much cooler. Except for midsummer, the water temperature difference between shady and sunny areas is relatively large. Therefore, from the perspective of water temperature, cool places are mainly deep water, flowing water, and shady areas. 2. High dissolved oxygen. The dissolved oxygen in water is also related to many factors, similar to water temperature. The most influential factor for dissolved oxygen is air pressure. High air pressure means sufficient dissolved oxygen, while low air pressure means insufficient dissolved oxygen. When the water is short of oxygen, fish are prone to surface, float heads, and they will definitely not feed when floating. The problem is that there are many low-pressure days in summer, making it very difficult to catch fish. The dissolved oxygen in still water and flowing water is different. Flowing water has higher dissolved oxygen. It is also inversely proportional to water temperature. Under the same air pressure, lower water temperature means more sufficient dissolved oxygen. Therefore, shady positions have more sufficient dissolved oxygen due to lower water temperature. The dissolved oxygen level is also related to plants. Algae and aquatic plants in the water release oxygen during the day but absorb oxygen from the water at night. This is why fishing in grassy areas is not recommended at night. The dissolved oxygen is lower than in open water, and casting is more difficult. Dissolved oxygen is also related to water depth. The shallow water layer, which is in more contact with the air, has higher dissolved oxygen, so deep water has lower dissolved oxygen than shallow water. This is why fish surface when the water is oxygen deficient. The downwind position has waves, which also increases dissolved oxygen. Therefore, choosing a fishing spot in summer is simple. Flowing water is a good choice, but torrents are unsuitable because most fish cannot stay in torrents. For torrents, fish in the slow-flowing areas. Still water with inflow, such as near inlets, is most suitable for summer fishing. Shady positions, such as under trees or in bridge holes, are good choices, and anglers also feel more comfortable there. Deep water has low water temperature and low dissolved oxygen, but bottom-dwelling fish prefer coolness and are more tolerant of low oxygen than mid-upper layer fish, so deep water is also a viable option. On windy days, choose suitable terrain at the upwind position, the direction facing the wind.